Thanks all for staying for us for almost 2.5 hours now. And I warmly welcome now our keynotes for today, Pullela Gopichand, Margaret Whitehead, and Dr. Padma. Just for the keynote speakers reference, in IPLA conference today, we had 3 panel discussions: physical literacy for young children, physical literacy for the adults, and physical literacy for senior citizens. And we had tried to look at each of these stakeholders coming together to share their viewpoint, how physical literacy can be relevant in their context. And we also intentionally had the 2 very strong cultural connection of physical literacy in India. So we had yoga demonstration. We also had the dance-based activity as an example, where we had Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kuchipudi, Kathak, Mohiniyattam. These were the dance movement form which we shared with all the participants. Now going to the last session of today's program about the keynote and thought leadership, I'll first invite Pullela Gopichand sir to share his viewpoint. Of course, his badminton journey is very much known to everyone. I'll not go in that, but I know something from my discussion with him and especially discussing with his family as well. That journey of a child who only knew how to play to the journey of a physical literacy ambassador who want every child to play. So that pretty much has been the way I relate to Gopichand sir. So sir, warm welcome to you to IPLA conference. And we are looking forward to your perspective on physical literacy and cultural connections.
Thank you, Amit. A very good afternoon, good morning to all of you, wherever you are. Good evening. I think it's great to hear what's happening here and to see the journey grow from where it has started off. For me personally, I started off thinking of sport being very important and critical. But today, when I look at this entire journey, especially what Margaret talks about, I think it's something amazing, because what started off as a limited journey for me to see medals, to me winning, to my students winning, today to see everyone win by participation, everyone taking sport for life as an important thing, everybody looking beyond sport for medals, and everybody looking at physical activity for life is very, very important. Sport seems to be a very small segment of that very important component. Sometimes in the rush, we seem to think of it as the only component, and especially competitive sport actually takes things away, and we've lost a lot of people in this journey, which has not been as inclusive as I would have loved it to be. People like me who've been athletes, people like me who've been coaches, who've been coaching at the highest level, I would say have also been responsible. And I personally feel I'm also been in that journey where I didn't see what was happening in our single-minded job for medals. And today, when I look at this journey, it looks much beyond. It looks as though it's very, very important for us that this concept is taken through the entire population, for every kid, every adult, and every person in society. Because today, more than ever, this has become more and more relevant. India as a nation always had it ingrained into it. In the sense, I would remember I have my grandfather who's 91, and I spent a lot of time when I was younger with my great-grandfather as well, who would walk 30 miles to get to the village, from the village to the town to attend a court case, or who had to go to college, they would drive 25 kilometers. Even my mom would be walking 10 kilometers to go to school. So things which were there in terms of physical activity was very, very natural. So even things like drawing water, and I come from a village where it was very normal for people to walk a few kilometers to get water. So people are carrying huge buckets and stuff to come and just bring water. Even the hand pump in the for getting water was a lot of physical activity. But today things are different, and today I think it's very important to incorporate this level of thinking, because the kind of sedentary life we are having, I think it's important to put it into clear, actionable items and need to work on it to make something which was simple and natural to be revived. And it's sad and strange that in very quick time we've actually lost on it. India, in its nature, in its intent, was always like this, because when you look at our culture, whether it's sitting down and eating, whether it's the way we greet people, we have to take our journeys for pilgrimages would involve a lot of treks. All of these things were very ingrained into us. Dance forms were very integral part of it, and today we are losing out of it. And I think it's very important that the concept which Margaret has talked about is actually brought to us. And I think it's something which we should all propagate to ensure that we are actually a country which is reviving its physical literacy in some sense. For me, this personal journey took a sharp turn when a small kid who was supposed to catch a shuttle from 5 feet away dropped it. And it started to bring about a whole change in my outlook towards sport, towards competitive sport, towards physical ability, and towards what we are missing out. I believe we need to revive all of it. And I do believe that conferences like these, which get people to talk about what they're doing, can inspire a lot more from our generation to actually take this up and ensure that they do this activity for life. It's a very personal journey. It's a very important journey. And I think it's something which needs us to revive what we've actually had in the past. And for me, dance forms, for me, ancient things which we were doing, very simple activities which we're doing, are very, very important. In the absence of physical literacy and a concept or a thought on those lines, we end up wanting to find that mind-body connect in various things. And I was hearing about substance abuse, I'm hearing about aggression, I'm hearing about depression, hearing about attention deficit syndromes. I think all of these have a role because we have not been physically literate in some sense. I think it's very important that they need to start bringing all of these things back. And I do believe that IPLA, with this kind of leadership, with Professor Margaret Whitehead, who's been a real pioneer and putting all these things together, it seems so natural that when you read the book, when you hear Madam speak, that all of these things are so natural. It's like, I know this is so correct. But to actually somebody to put this together is something really wonderful. The entire team of IPLA, congratulations. And I think the Indian team which has put this up, I think congratulations to you. And I hope that we bring this journey forward together. And for me, the words of J.R.D. Tata were a clear life changer for me in some sense, because for somebody like me who does competitive sport, for me, how does physical literacy and competition work together is something which I got from J.R.D. Tata. In his words, that a nation or country or a community doesn't become great by just removing poverty. It becomes great by giving a chance to the talented few to shine, to become the best in the world. These were his words. What it basically relates to, when I related to my self is that every kid in society, every person in society should be physically literate, in the sense that he should continue to do physical activity happily for life, and he should have the motivation, the knowledge, and the understanding of physical aspects of movement in such a way that he is motivated to do these things for life. And if there are anybody who has the talent and has the wish to compete, I think we as a society should ensure that they have an opportunity to compete to be the best in the world. So this for me is my philosophy today. I missed such simple aspects in my life for the longest period of time, and I do wish that these initiatives can bring more and more people together to sport, and it is actually beyond medals. Wish you all the very best, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Gopi sir, for your kind words. And as you rightly said that this seems so simple when you just reflect and go through the words itself. And really grateful to IPLA for putting that lot of effort and continuous guidance. I'll now request Margaret to share her viewpoint, her thoughts on this topic. In simpler words, for Indian audience, Margaret is seen as the mother of physical literacy at a world level. She has written two seminal texts. Her two books has been the main torchbearer of physical literacy concept all over the world. And she, in her experience, she has trained in physical education. She has also been a teacher trainer, and also used a lot of dance activity as in her journey. But probably me personally, what stays with me was the first time when we had a call. Gopi sir was also there in Delhi, and we were sitting in a hotel and having our first call with Margaret, and she used the word that why not just focus on champion, but have everyone flourishing in their life. And that has been the purpose for us as well, individually, that there's a possibility of each one flourishing through physical literacy journey. So I welcome Margaret on behalf of our Indian physical literacy advocates, and we look forward to your keynote as well as your guidance throughout.
I am delighted to have the opportunity to be speaking to you at the start of this conference. The short presentation I'm about to give you is based on my two books, Physical Literacy Throughout the Life Course, 2010, and Physical Literacy Across the World, 2019. These are essential reading for those who are interested to learn more. Another way to learn more is to join IPLA, our website. It's a range of literature, blogs, articles that can further enhance your understanding of the concept. Now, Tom asked me to provide answers to a number of questions. So the first question was, why is physical literacy relevant and important? Physical literacy is relevant and important as it makes a significant contribution to a balanced life. It respects our human nature as moving beings and plays a central part in holistic well-being. Physical literacy is about encouraging a positive disposition towards participation in physical activity throughout life. In other words, to realize the potential benefits of an active life. Physical literacy is not a state of being, but an attitude, and thus can wax and wane or fluctuate throughout life, depending on the circumstances we find ourselves in and the opportunities we are able to access. Physical literacy is specific to each individual. Each is on his or her own personal physical literacy journey, which is influenced by experiences of physical activity and how these experiences have been perceived. It is suggested that to make progress on a physical literacy journey, participants need to develop their motivation, their confidence, their physical competence, and their knowledge and understanding, such that they value physical activity and take responsibility for engaging in physical activity for life. Humans express their nature in a wide variety of ways, one of which is via their body. I actually prefer to refer to the body as our embodiment, which implies that this aspect of ourselves is a moving, feeling, perceiving organ, rather than a machine to be managed by us somewhat at a distance. While developing our embodied potential is highly valuable in its own right, it also opens the door to enhancing holistic fitness, facilitating social interaction, putting us in contact with the natural world, as well as playing a part in decreasing obesity and enhancing mental health. COVID has underlined the importance and value of physical activity for everyone, not just the elite. People have realized that physical activity is rewarding, invigorating, and self-fulfilling, as well as being crucial for our holistic well-being. In being physically active, we draw on particular human resources and realize an aspect of our human nature. We become more fully human, surely a worthwhile goal. The next topic that Tom gave me was, what does a person who is making progress on their physical literacy journey look like? Participants would exhibit progress relative to their endowment in respect of the attributes of physical literacy. Attributes are described as symptomatic behaviours. In Whitehead 2019, I set out a longer and shorter version of what these attributes are. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the shorter version. Typically, the individual who's making progress wants to take part in physical activity, has the confidence to know that it will be rewarding. The individual moves efficiently and effectively in a wide variety of physical activities, has an awareness of movement needs and possibilities. The individual can work independently and with others, and knows how to improve performance. The individual knows how physical activity can improve well-being and has the self-confidence to plan and effect a physically active lifestyle. In a sense, you could use some of these symptomatic behaviours as goals in your teaching to help them to move efficiently, to help them to be independent. So the symptomatic behaviours, they do describe an individual, but they can be used in other ways as well. And if you look through that list, you'll notice that it is true to monism. It's not just about the physical. It's about the physical, the cognitive, and the affective. So we have to take care of all of those in the work that we do. They all feed from each other. Now, the next question was, what does a program look like that is designed to enable the development of physical literacy or promote the journey? So, a program designed to foster physical literacy, whether this is in the early years, during schooling, or within adulthood and during old age, will all display certain characteristics. So this is very important for your work as practitioners with the participants. At all times, there is a positive, encouraging atmosphere. The atmosphere is one of celebrating progress, however small. There is a learner-centered approach. Participants are known and respected as a whole and as unique. Participants are challenged and supported in their learning in relation to their physical, affective, and cognitive capabilities. Sessions are active and give plenty of time for practice and learning. There is ample time for participants to become familiar with and confident in whatever activity they're involved. It's not just a quick experience. It develops over time. You have time to become confident in the activity. As far as possible, participants have the opportunity to experience all the movement forms. So that is spelled out in both books. So it's concerned with the aesthetic, the competitive, a whole range. And I recommend very strongly that in the work you do with participants, they cover all movement forms. Next question was, what does a physically literate society look like? Well, that's not a particularly easy question, but a society that is actively promoting physical literacy would clearly value physical activity, in that this area is covered well at preschool age and in schooling. So would clearly want it to be involved right the way through. So they would have made plans for it to be included in schooling. The society would make provision for there to be a wide range of physical activity opportunities in the community, opportunities that are accessible to all members of society, all members, whatever their age or endowment. The society would provide opportunities that, in a sense, invite participants to take part. There's no problem about transport or about money. They are available, and it becomes part of your lifestyle that you are involved in physical activity. The society would ensure that government fiscal policies and decisions and town planning send a clear message to all members of society that physical activity is uniquely valuable and can make an important contribution to raising the quality of life. The next topic is, what is the connection between physical literacy and human flourishing? I think there's a very close relationship, and there are 2 chapters in the 2019 book that look at human flourishing. However, human flourishing is a slippery concept. It's subject to a variety of definitions, as we spell out in the book. However, as a general rule, all would agree that it can be described as a state of well-being in which an individual is thriving optimally. Thriving optimally. Broadly, this state has 2 facets, one being quality of life and the other being breadth of experience. And I would suggest that physical literacy can make a contribution to both facets. Looking at quality of experiences first, that are part of human flourishing. One list of references the following characteristics of experiences that make a contribution to flourishing. Where experiences provide happiness, health, purpose, virtue, and opportunities for close relationships with others, they can enhance the quality of life. So happiness, health, purpose, virtue, and opportunities for close relationship with others. Then there's another list that you'll find in the book. These are characteristics or constituents that describe the state of flourishing, the state. And they are that the individual is experiencing autonomy, very satisfying, personal growth. If you picture physical activity and see if you think that that fits in, self-acceptance, self-confidence, self-belief, a purpose in life, a developed environmental mastery, a positive relationship with others, and optimism, and very importantly, vitality. So where experiences foster states of being such as these, the quality of life can be enhanced. There's a lot of work about motivation and self-realization, and these sort of concepts, autonomy, purpose in life, optimism, keep cropping up. Without going into great detail, it's not difficult to identify how physical literacy can contribute to human flourishing. For example, from the first list, physical activity can contribute to happiness and health. It can provide purpose in life and opportunities to be in contact with others. From the second list, physical activity has the potential, through its very nature, to foster autonomy and decision-making. It can also positively influence vitality, personal growth, and self-acceptance. You don't have to do anything except be involved in physical activity, a range of physical activity, and a number of those aspects of human flourishing are automatically covered. Regarding breadth, other iterations about human flourishing point to the benefit of capitalizing on involvement in a breadth of experiences, and thus of developing a wide range of our capabilities. So they're not particularly focusing on getting all these benefits from one activity, but they encourage people to have a broad experience. This can be rewarding and fulfilling and contribute to self-awareness and self-esteem. With physical activity or physical literacy providing the individual with a unique way of interacting with the world, this clearly signals that developing this capability adds to the breadth of experience and thus adds to human flourishing. From this brief description of some aspects of human flourishing, I would argue that physical literacy can be seen as a constituent element of human flourishing, as it represents an important element of our nature. I would also argue that human flourishing without developing our embodied potential would be the poorer. In addition to enhancing quality and quantity in respect of the constituents of human flourishing, physical literacy is very close to human flourishing in that they share very similar philosophical perspectives. They share an interest in holism, in fluent interaction with the environment, and the unique nature of each individual. I believe that they go hand in hand, and one of the justifications for physical literacy or participation for physical activity for life is the significant contribution it makes to human flourishing. It's good to know that physical literacy is being adopted around the world. Few countries haven't heard of it, and many countries have changed decision-making, have changed curriculum to adopt a physical literacy approach. There is an issue here in that different countries work from slightly different perspectives of physical literacy. Now, this is not surprising, as each country will have particular philosophies, a particular history, and their own cultural practices. However, I believe that the concept is sufficiently grounded in credible philosophies that it is relevant to all humans, but at the same time is robust enough to accommodate the nature of a parent country. So there's not a very tight, close requirement. In relation to each of my contacts in many countries across the world, I ask myself 3 questions. Is a significant goal of the work to promote lifelong participation in physical activity for all? So in relation to this country, is a significant goal of all the work to promote lifelong participation for all, not just the elite, but for all? I ask myself, are the learners being treated as holistic human beings? And finally, I ask myself, are their learners being recognized as unique? So is a goal participation through life? Are they being treated as holistic and unique individuals? And if the answer to these questions is positive, I would judge that they are intent on fostering physical literacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret. Thank you for being here. Your vision and energy and tireless striving has spread the goodness of physical literacy across the globe. And now the fire is lit, and I'm sure the flames will spread far and wide to inspire everyone in their personal physical literacy journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm honored to introduce our next keynote speaker of the day, one who, in my opinion, epitomizes the value of movement. You see, she did not stop with just understanding the movement of humans or imitating the movement of birds, animals, and nature. Here is someone who intuited, researched, and discovered that the ancient temple sculptures that are India's pride and heritage are actually not statuesque poses alone. They are movement patterns, always in motion, though set in stone. She was able to see the movement and the value of movement even in these statues. For instance, the Lord Nataraja is recognized as a symbol of classical Indian art form world over, But can dance be a frozen pose? She said no. Before I welcome her and introduce her, let me begin by sharing a video clip of how a statue depicting Lord Nataraja is actually a beautiful movement frozen in stone. On behalf of the IPLA, I would like to welcome Dr. Padma Subrahmanyam. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Salutations to the Guru. Thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Padma. Dr. Padma is a world-renowned Indian classical dancer, a research scholar, an Indologist, musician, composer, choreographer, author, and an enduring teacher who has disciples, in fact, I can even say devotees from across the globe. She is the recipient of the Padma Bhushan and the Padma Shri, which are among the highest civilian awards of India, besides several other recognitions and awards from various national and international forums. She founded the dance form Bharata Nrityam based on her research of the Natyasasra and brought the Karanas, or the movement forms of the sculptures, to light through her PhD. She heads Nrithyodaya, the dance school started by her father, film pioneer director K. Subramaniam. Nrithyodaya will be celebrating its 80th anniversary in 2022. Dr. Padma is the founder managing trustee of Bharata Ilango Foundation for Asian Culture, BIFAC, a pan-Asian cultural research center functioning with the objective of becoming an Asian cultural corridor. While Dr. Padma is an amazing communicator, her dance is also her spiritual offering, a very deeply personal embodied experience. Of all her accomplishments, the one that sets her truly apart is her ability to make the viewer an integral part of her experience as a dancer. It is an honor, pleasure, and pride to invite Dr. Padma Subrahmanyam to deliver her keynote address, Natyasasra for Wellbeing. Over to you, Dr. Padma.
Sadhguru Jhanana, you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Respected Dr. Margaret Whitehead, founder of IPLA, and Shri Pullela Gopichand, chief coach of badminton team, Gita Krishna Raj, and other friends. It is with a great sense of joy that I stand before you this August gathering to give one more keynote address. You are people who have strived for both subjective and objective well-being of humanity. You must excuse me for my bad throat. I'm just out of viral infection. So if it cracks, I can't help it. I'm really thankful to Gita Krishna Raj for all those kind words she spoke about me, and also for her having invited me for this conference. Talking about physical literacy, I cannot but think of a very great soul whom we lost just a couple of months ago. He was 105 years old and he had danced till he was 103. He was probably the oldest performing artist on the stage, a Kathakali dancer, Guru Chemmanjeri Kunniraman Nair. I dedicate even my speech to him. He has shown us the importance of physical well-being. For those who are not aware of the ancient text on the science of the art of drama, I need to introduce this encyclopedic work, which is the earliest extant literature on the subject in the world. The author was a sage known as Bharata Muni. When a sage takes interest in a subject, it should be surely nourishing the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual faculties of human development. Hindus believe in the origin of cognizance from divine source. A realization of this fact through self-experience is yoga. Yoga means unison. What do we mean by unison? It is the unison of the discipline of body and mind. When that discipline is given an artistic coating, along with the science of communication, it is dance or theatre art. I'm very happy to know that Dr. Margaret was also a dancer. The two arts are synthesized in the art called Natya. In India, Natyasasra gives the codes of that theatre art. It is a popular jargon these days to describe dance as body language. It is a very old and cultivated language of the actors in Indian tradition. The Natyasasra deals with every aspect of training the body and mind, leading to the well-being of the practitioners. The art of communication is classified as four, namely physical, verbal, emotional, and also the use of external elements such as makeup, costumes, jewelry, and stage accessories. The first and primary lesson comes under the category of physical expression. For this art, Bharata analyzes the whole body as being made up of major and minor limbs. Each of these limbs is to be trained, to be activated or frozen in specific postures. Names are given to each and every dynamic or static element. Each limb is to undergo exercises to be moved independently, that means without other parts of the body shaken, and also moving the limbs collectively. The major limbs are head, chest, sides, waist, and feet. The minor limbs are of two kinds, namely those in the face and those in other parts of the body. Those in the face include eyebrows, eyeballs, eyelids, lips, nose, cheek, and chin. I'm happy Bharata did not ask us to move our ears like the elephant. The minor limbs in the body include the neck, stomach, thighs, knees, shank, and ankles and heel, of course, sole and toes. Every action has specific names. Just half an hour of exercise of this pedagogy for fitness is sufficient to keep the blood circulation in control. When the exercises are performed with relevant breathing exercises, there is ample preparation for a soloist to perform a concert for over 3 hours with no physical strain. Some of the vyayamas, exercises of Natyasasra, have been extremely helpful in therapy. The neck exercises have controlled spondylosis. This is my personal experience after an accident that I had 35 years ago. The chest exercises will, with breathing regularities, help the lungs and of course the spine. The stretches of the thighs, knees and shanks develop strength for the legs. The stances ensure body balance. In short, the pedagogy for body training given in this ancient text Natyasasra is highly scientific and also artistic. I would think that these codes are a common base for Asian aesthetics. The Natyasasra has a beautiful blend of kinetic and aesthetic principles. When properly learned and practiced, the dancer will not develop any deterioration in the joints. Only tapping, when the tapping is harsh, some Bharatanatyam dancers develop backache. The beauty of the pedagogy of body training, as seen in the Natyasasra, is that every physical movement has a usage in expression of some idea. The word abhinaya means the art of communication. Physical communication is called angika abhinaya, that is, use of the angas or limbs to express an idea. While every major and minor limb is used for this purpose, there is a whole language of gestures through hands. The fingers are well utilized for this purpose. In Japan, they documented my hand gestures with the purpose of teaching the factory workers so that they improve the dexterity of their hands. With hand gestures, any idea can be communicated. Even then, it would be only at the physical level. Verbal expression depends on dialogues, songs, and proper delivery of all this with special voice culture, which is extremely necessary. Again, there also voice culture becomes part of the physical training. This includes music, definitely, and the notes are to be properly sung because those days dancers were expected to sing also. The emotional expression requires understanding of characters and situations, which is a big intellectual exercise. The analysis of emotions, their expression, and the effect on the spectators form a major chapter under the theory of bhava and rasa in the Natyasasra. When one exercises in the gym, there is no need for expression of an emotion. The subjective well-being of both the body and mind will automatically arise with practice. In Natya, there is an additional responsibility of training the mind to be experiencing like someone else. What is external has to be internalized, and what is internalized has to be externalized for the spectator's understanding. It is in this state of consciousness that the actor is like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. He is in it and still out of it. This is where the Natyasasra excels in the progress of the well-being from mere physical fitness to an awakening of from the known to the unknown worlds. This is an enlargement of one's mental faculties. This leads to a spiritual awareness wherein one realizes the relationship of the individual with the entire creation. The actor is the most powerful potential to realize Shakespeare's concept of world is a stage and we are all actors. The experience of exposure to beauty is called rasa. This rasa is equated to spiritual bliss in Indian aesthetics. But the foremost training that Natyasasra enables is that the entire body is trained only to be forgotten about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Padma. It was very, very insightful and absolutely thrilling. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you, Geeta. Thank you, Dr. Padma. It was personally also a very warming, heart-touching presentation for us as well. And it's so much relevant for today's topic, that physical literacy with the cultural connection. And probably nothing could have brought out that monism philosophy of physical literacy, along with the way you touched through Natyasasra culture root of India. So blessed to conclude your keynote on this. Thank you, Dr. Padma. For the last section, we have a question and answer section as well, where we will be having a moderation by Neelam Babardesai. She is heading Tata Trust Sports Vertical and very actively working now on physical literacy for last 3 years, more than 3 years rather. So very happy to have you, Neelam, here. And to join Neelam, I also got Pankaj, who has also been supporting physical literacy initiative for quite a long time with me, with everyone together. And very happy to have you, Pankaj, here as well. Through Pankaj and Neelam, whatever are the curiosity, clarification all of us have as a participant, so they would be moderating with our esteemed panelists. So request Margaret, Padma, Dr. Gopichand sir to keep your video and audio on so that we can have this conversation going.
Thank you so much to everyone who has been engaged into organizing this afternoon. We are in the middle of company of 3 gurus and many more gurus. All of us are gurus here. I'll probably start with a very short story before I ask a question to the 3 major gurus who have given the keynotes to us, Dr. Padma, Gopi sir, and of course Guru Margaret, who is here. So the story is a very short story about a Reiki master, and he told his disciples that you have to master the processes, but once you master them, you have to move away from them. So this line reminded me of the line that Dr. Padma had at the end of her slide, which says that gives me similar thoughts about physical literacy as well, where one has to know oneself in a way, and once one is together with one's known awareness, you move away from it and you go with the flow. So my question to you is, and to give you a background around my question, is that all of us who are present here are some way or the other associated with physical literacy movement in India, or maybe we'll have some international experts as well. I actually want to take a guidance from all 3 of you. What do you expect? Let's say we do this conference a year down the line. What would you want us to drive in this country, in this society, with the stakeholders who we have? Because we have people who are working with schools, people who are working with adults. We had a session dedicated to about children, about young adults. We had a session dedicated to about elders. I would really want to hear from the gurus. What do you see for your disciples here to be doing in next 1 year, specifically in context of what you are aware of, what we have been doing?
All right. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question and the opportunity to be here. I think in the current state of play, there has been a lot of work about the school years. Not surprisingly, because a lot of interested people and academics are working within an educational context. And this, of course, is essential because that's where a lot of the initial inspiration comes from, experiences in schools. And I have to discipline myself to look beyond school. I have been a teacher and a teacher trainer and a dancer, etc. And I feel that connecting with people who work with people in the early years, 0 to 5, is absolutely crucial. And some form of education, if you like, for parents about the importance of freedom of movement, variety of movement, helping young people to be confident and explore and express themselves in movement. I think I would like to see that developed. I would also like to see the work with the adult. I know that you've done tremendous work, Gopichand, in relation to closing roads and getting everybody involved. And in fact, that seems to have been an icebreaker. It seems to have started things going. It's a difficult area because when you're working with children in school, you've got the teachers there who are the people who can make a difference. Whereas when you're working with adults and older adults, the people who are practitioners in this field come from many fields and we need to try to reach all the practitioners who can make a difference in the experiences of adults and elderly people, such that they develop their physical literacy, they make progress on their journey, and they are committed to being involved. So I think what I would really like to see is I'd like to see the early years education, informing the mothers, etc., how important it is, or the carers, and also trying to find a way to, again, explain and educate and involve the many practitioners who are working with the adults. I don't think it's an easy goal, but I think that we need to face up to the need in those areas.
Yeah, for me, I think I think each one of those words which Professor Margaret has spoken and Padma has spoken is so deep and profound, and I'm especially happy with what Padma Garu has spoken. For me, I think in a year from now, I think we have actually made the word spread. Now, today, in a large segment, people are talking about physical literacy. Of course, they talk about it more from a numerical, digital, and a literacy perspective. With the understanding of the deeper concept of physical literacy is what has just started to reach some of them. For me, in a year's time, to look at confident people talking about physical literacy beyond physical exercise and sport would be very critical. To incorporate and to recognize these areas which are already there in the society and give a special emphasis on it and make it inclusive to the physical literacy concept would be very important, whether it's dance, whether it's yoga, whether it's even working at home with a mind-body connect, doing domestic chores with a mind-body connect. I think that would be very, very important. And yes, there is only so much which can happen at the young age. And that is great. We've actually made substantial progress over the years, over the last 3-4 years. But I think to move away from that and to move away from even organized sport and to get into a space which is unorganized sport, unorganized physical activity, which is actually very enriching for the mind and body connect and the soul, is something which I would really want to start talking about. And today's dialogue, where Dr. Padma Subrahmanyam has spoken so deeply about Natyasasra and dance, is something amazing. This is the true India. And I think we need to bring these out as stories, which actually, in a way, delinks physical literacy from physical education and sport, and starts to make of everything as more inclusive. And we have these things in the country. And if any country has it, I think India has it. And we just need to bring these things up and speak about it. And we need ambassadors like Dr. Padma. And it's amazing to see what is being done today.
Dr. Padma, would you like to? We can't hear you, Dr. Padma.
Actually, as I said, it's amazing that this old text has analyzed the entire body as major and minor limbs. For instance, I will show you how just the elbow is trained. It will be very useful for sports also. You have here, just move the elbow alone. And the hand has to be straight. See the palm, only my elbow is moving. This kind of every minor limb being trained will be useful not only for dance. These will be useful for all the sports. In fact, long ago, I had attended an East-West music meet. That was the first meeting that was ever arranged some 25 years ago. there a Western violinist learned this movement, and he said it's very useful for bowing the instrument. So this analysis from this old text, which I have been studying for the past half a century and trying on my students, has really worked magic. They're able to pick up anything. And right age is to start when they are 7. Better early.
Thank you, Dr. Padma. Thank you, Gopi sir and Margaret. I know this is a very special afternoon. Margaret, I must share with you that all the organizers of this conference, as well as people who have participated here, you would see the numbers here from different parts of the country. We almost think of this like a family, right? This is a physical literacy family we have. And it's very momentous to have presence of you three who have excelled in your arts and have given direction to people like us, to societies and the countries all across. To make it more memorable, I have more lighter question actually. I would want you to share something about yourself, which probably people wouldn't know in context of physical literacy. I would really want to make this afternoon special for all our attendees here, for us as well to have something to be known about you, which probably many people wouldn't know, right? Same with Gopi sir and Dr. Padma as well. I'm sure you have a larger public life in terms of the art and the craft that you have demonstrated and displayed. But beyond that, something which is very close to your heart, which you want to share with the family here.
All right, then. Something that's very close to my heart. Well, I would say that dance is very close to my heart. I danced a tremendous amount between about the ages of 18 and 25. And my dance is more creative and less stylized than others. And I led a dance and worship group for about 4 or 5 years and found it very fulfilling to lead the group that I led in at communion, at a funeral, at a christening, as a wedding, interpreting those developing relationships in dance. And then when I began to dive into philosophy, I continued with my sport, which was tennis, but I still kept the love, the passion, the memory of dance. And I didn't have an easy ride because about 8 years ago, I had 2 knee replacements and 2 hip replacements. That was a problem. However, about 3 years ago, I was well enough and determined to return to dance. And I searched and searched in Cambridge to find a dance group. And eventually I found a dance group that was right. And I have had the most inspiring experience of returning to dance, creative barefoot dance, I call it, in the last year. And we have danced outside and we've danced inside, we've danced with each other, we've danced alone. And it has taken me back to the root of my passion that movement has meant so much to me. And I think that's what I would have to think hard about looking at movement, but it has been so much part of my life, part of the development of my self-confidence, my self-image, my self-respect. And even at my age of 81, I'm still dancing and I'm still loving it. And I'm doing some teaching as well. So I think that it's the dance in my heart that has set me going on the monist road and the philosophy. So I think putting me on the spot like that, goodness me, Pankaj, I have to say that I am a dancer at heart, and that is probably my own experience, which has initiated my passion that other people should have such a positive life experience. Thank you for asking me the question.
Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful, Margaret. I can understand your feeling for dance, because once you have a passion for movement, there are occasions when your whole body is moving, but your mind is still. This is what yoga is. And this is what Bhagavad Gita says. And it happens to a dancer. You are in a trance. Many times it has happened to me. While I'm dancing, I'm meditating. Dance is a meditation for me. And I understand that dance happens, as you very rightly said, outside and inside. And even if I'm doing gardening, mentally I'm singing, and every time I bend down to pick up a flower, I know it's a kind of a dance movement for me. So gardening is a very, very passionate pastime for me. But even that gives me so much mental peace, because I'm one who will be going mad at moment of anything. I keep looking at the waste paper flying in air or the dry leaves falling. I see dance in all that. To me, I can understand that is why we have in Hindu philosophy that Shiva Nataraja is the cosmic dancer. Everything is dance. If there is no movement, then there is no life. So this is something which one has to experience within. But one thing, these experiences cannot be taught. They have to be felt. It has to be a subjective feeling. That alone cannot be taught. It may be different for each person. Maybe a dancer who is compelled to dance with a knee trouble. For that dancer, dance will be a pain. So it depends on the individual.
Thank you, Dr. Padma. That was lovely. I mean, I think what comes out again from both your experiences, Dr. Margaret as well as Dr. Padma, is the mind-body connect that we're talking about always, right? It would the entire journey that or all the experiences that we've heard today. It's everything comes down to the mind-body connect and being one with whatever you're doing and enjoying what you're doing. Gopi, anything from you?
Well, I think for me now it's almost like I wish I would also dance.
Come join me. Come join
Yes,
me.
I'm sure.
Whatever I teach you, please come. I enjoy looking at the sportsmen, the cricketer or the batsman. I mean, every one of you, there's so much dance in your movement. If you're a good sportsman, then you are a dancer. I remember once when there was a commentary for some cricketer, very famous cricketer, in the All India Radio, the person who was talking was saying, oh, those movements were like Dr. Padma's dance.
I think we're all.
It is, after all, it is a human body. You play a game or you dance, it is all within this framework of a human body. But that human body is something more than that, because my philosophy teaches me, to me, I can understand that is why we have in Hindu philosophy that Shiva Nataraja is the cosmic dancer. Everything is dance. If there is no movement, then there is no life. So this is something which one has to experience within. But one thing, these experiences cannot be taught. They have to be felt. It has to be a subjective feeling. That alone cannot be taught. It may be different for each person. Maybe a dancer who is compelled to dance with a knee trouble. For that dancer, dance will be a pain. So it depends on the individual.
Thank you, Dr. Padma. That was lovely. I mean, I think what comes out again from both your experiences, Dr. Margaret as well, Dr. Padma, is the mind-body connect that we're talking about always, right? It would the entire journey that we, or all the experiences that we've heard today. It's everything comes down to the mind-body connect and being one with whatever you're doing and enjoying what you're doing. Gopi, anything from you?
Well, I think for me now it's almost like I wish I would also dance.
Come join me. Come join
Yes,
me.
I'm sure.
Whatever I teach you, please come. I enjoy looking at the sportsmen, you know, the cricketer or the batsman. I mean, every one of you, there's so much dance in your movement. If you're a good sportsman, then you are a dancer. I remember once when there was a commentary for some cricketer, very famous cricketer, in the All India radio, the person who was talking was saying, oh, those movements were like Dr. Padma's dance.
I think we're all.
So, it is, after all, it is a human body. You play a game or you dance, it is all within this framework of a human body. But that human body is something more than that, because my philosophy teaches me that this body is a temple. It houses the soul, which is the Lord Infinite. So it's a temple. And if it is a temple, you have to keep it clean. You have to keep it healthy, irrespective of what work you do. Even if you're not physically engaged, you are poor youngsters, they're almost all the time sitting in front of the computer these days. They have no chance to move their legs. So something has to be done to that group of people. I think your group must make some special exercises, Dr. Margaret, for that group of people who have not been able to even get out of their seat. For 12 hours, they are sitting in front of the computer. How are you going to save their physical well-being? In fact, it's a problem for the eyes. And I'm told for mind also. I don't know. But anyway, I'm not techno-savvy. Thank God.
Yeah, I think we agree with you, Dr. Padma, there, and I think we can only try and inspire and motivate them to move. I think the opportunities are there, out there. They are being created by so many of the people today who are here with us also for them to move. And the simplest thing, which Ashrita also had shared, just moving, get up to pick something up, give your body a break, just move in between. You know, I think those also are very simple things which can be done, which you just have to do it. Simple, just do it today. Yeah, I think we are pressed for time, so I have quick, I think, but last few questions for you all. A little different, a little personal. So we've heard you in your physical literacy journeys. Would like to understand how that has impacted your nearest family members. I mean, what do you think? How you have your physical literacy journey has impacted your nearest family members as a parent, as a father, as you know. Can you, if you can just share that with us? Gopi, would you like to go ahead, please, first?
Yeah, for me, I think as a sports person, I've had my share of injuries. I had 4 knee surgeries and multiple fractures. So I think the family was affected because the obsession to get back was something which was driving me crazy, and it wasn't helping the family much, but I think it is the support of the family which really helped. And for me, I think a lot of the times the understanding is very, very important, because many of us uh, who have been on this journey really uh, have their entire life's happiness revolving around doing the things which they're used to doing, whether it's dance or whether it's badminton or sport. I think for me to stay away from it actually takes its toll on the mind and the body. And I think to get back is very, very critical. And I think the family's understanding and support is supreme. And I think that's the reason why what Margaret said about the parents knowing it and understanding it when kids are not able to play, when young adults don't have an opportunity to play, when they're sitting 12 hours in front of the computer, I think it affects not only the body but the mind as well. And I think it's very, very important that this element, and when I said in the previous answer that we need to look at it a lot more holistically, I would mean that when people don't have an opportunity to express themselves and to release their angers and aggressions and depressions out in a physical way, they just suppress it inside, and that's going to have an effect on the inner body and health. So it's very, very important that we have an understanding of why sport is important, and it's beyond medal. At school, people play because it might be a career. When they are old, they might actually play because it's for health. But I think the mid ages, when there is something to be achieved, they forget about health, and that cannot be the case. And that's very important, that physical literacy for young adults is very, very critical.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Margaret, would you like to share something about how your own journey has impacted your family?
Well, I mean, you could come at it from all sorts of directions, but I mean, if you just look at the physical journey of my family, both my parents were involved in different sorts of sport. I was trained as a PE teacher, and so I did every sort of sport and dance and physical activity and taught. I met my husband through sport. He was a cricketer and I was a tennis player. We were in the same club, and so we met each other. I have 2 children, and they have thrived on sport from an early age. And I do think it's helped them through their adolescent stages. It's helped them moving from one context to another. So when my daughter moved to Australia, the first thing she did was she joined a dragon boat club, so that she was rowing. And my son, when he moved, the first thing he did when he got into London is he joined a basketball club. And I don't need to tell you that they both have 2 sons, and their sons play cricket and they swim and they do rugby and they do all sorts of activities. So I think it's changed their lifestyle. It's given them the confidence. It's given them opportunities to meet people, to go places. So I think from that perspective, I have been on a journey. My husband was with me on the journey until he passed, and then my children and my grandchildren. And I think we are seriously infected. We can't get away from it. You know, it's part of our togetherness and enjoyment and thriving in life. And it's a very important part. And it worries me where people have no outlet for their physicality. We're almost, in a way, I can't quite say this, but the way that we're going is against evolution. It's against what we are. It's trying to make us what we aren't. And we're not doing well. We're physically and mentally under stress. We're not doing well. We've skewed our evolution into something which is passive and mechanical. And we've lost the heart of being. I mean, I feel quite passionate about that. I think we've lost it. We've lost something. We're losing something. We're losing some of our real humanity. If we don't move, we're losing an essential part of ourselves. And I've just reading a book which we can't start talking about now, but quite a deep philosophical book. And they were persuading me that you haven't got a body, you are your body. So I'm trying to get my head around that. and they were talking about, well, if you've got a body, who is this? Who is I? I haven't got a body. If I haven't got a body, I'm not an I. So I'm, at the same time as I'm feeding off this, I'm facing up to some philosophically challenging questions. You're going to know my whole life story soon.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret, for sharing that. It was wonderful to hear that. Dr. Padma, would you like to share something?
Well, my family is very well known. We have a legacy of art and artistic activities, right from films to drama to music to dance. And my father was a very well-known film pioneer and also a freedom fighter. My mother was a composer of music and she was a lyricist in Sanskrit and Tamil. So there has been a lot of art in the family. All my sisters, all my brothers, they are all very well-known personalities. In fact, in Tamil, you have a phrase, "Nadaraja Papam Veedu." That means it's a well-known family. So every member of my family, when I say family, I speak from an Indian point of view. Because these days, family has come to mean husband and wife, if they are together, and the children, maybe one or two. I'm not talking like that. I'm talking like a traditional Indian lady who owns what is called a joint family. Our family has been having a common kitchen for 50 members when I was a child. Common kitchen for all of them. And now, even now, we don't have a common kitchen, but all my brothers are living just within 1 kilometer radius. Except during this last 1.5 years of pandemic, almost every weekend we would meet in one of their houses. And their children, they're all very well connected with art or film or dance or music. It's hard to mention because when my father's birthday was celebrated on International Father's Day, 50 members of my family took part in that one evening of entertainment when we had no less a person than Shri R. Venkatraman, our former president of India, to preside over our function. So this is my family. You can imagine. And my father was honorary liaison officer, state liaison officer to UNESCO. He was such a large-hearted person. The smallest family that he could think of was only at UNESCO level. So we were all brought up like that, you can understand.
Thank you, Dr. Padma. Yes, I guess the takeaway from here is, if one individual, how can one individual as in his own journey, they impact the nearest members and people around us, and as Dr. Margaret said, it's her own journey, her father's journey, their parents' journey. They've all led to the entire generations to be physically literate and to be physically active and enjoy the sport. And probably that's what each individual today needs to be. If every individual thinks about that, I have to be physically active, then the same thing can be transmitted to the nearest family members, and that's how we all can become physically.
Gita Krishna is my own niece. She's a wonderful dancer. And from dance, she has moved into your line.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Neelam. Thanks, Pankaj. On behalf of everyone present here, I would like to first express our gratitude to Dr. Margaret Whitehead for her tireless striving in presenting the concept and benefits of physical literacy over the last few decades for the benefit of humanity. Thank you so much for being here, Margaret, being here today, and for your blessings and guidance to the India chapter. We are indeed indebted to Mr. Pullela Gopichand for being the spark that is flaming the physical literacy movement in India. I must confess, I am blown over by the concluding line of Dr. Padma's keynote, that we train the body to actually forget about it. I think that epitomizes the culmination of the Indian esoteric wisdom of the embodied nature of human beings. So thank you so much, Dr. Padma, or if I may personally say, thank you so much, Padute, for being here. I also thank Nigel Green, Chair of IPLA, all the panelists, moderators, each and every one of you present here today. And now I wear my hat as member of the IPLA Training and Education Group to thank the Maverick team and Meenakshi for their wholehearted support in executing this conference. Let this not be the end of an intellectual interaction, but the beginning of a new way of life. If we began with the Ayur Mantra as prayer for our health and well-being, I think it's most appropriate to conclude this conference with a pledge, owning up responsibility for our personal well-being and of those around us. If in prayer, we extended our arms to receive the bounties of life, in gratitude, we bow down our heads for the benevolence bestowed upon us this life. May I request you to take this pledge with me today? The words are now on your screen. I affirm, every time I move, I open myself to new possibilities. Every activity I do, I encounter new feelings. I explore my world outside and within. Experience the joy of being alive and vibrant. My mind and body are in complete harmony. I am happy, healthy, and active in my physical literacy journey. In every moment and with every movement, I create myself. I am unique in my experiences, guided by my motivation, confidence, physical competence, knowledge, and understanding. I create my physical literacy journey, and it creates me. Our relationship is for life. Thank you so much for joining us. Jai Hind.